Hello, my name is Dawn Sanders, and I'm the Director of Compliance and Grants Management for the Green Healthy Homes Initiative's Thriving Community Grant Making Program. Today, we're going to be going over the grants management system called Fluxx that will be used for your application submission and your grant award throughout the grant making process. So excited that you are partnering with us in your grant making for environmental justice, and we look forward to supporting you in any of questions you might have throughout this entire submission. So for today, we're going to review the high-level information that you will need to submit into the Fluxx Grants Management System. How will you log into the system, submit your application, and be able to receive a status report of your application as it's moving along the review process. At the end of the presentation, you will also receive information about contact support via phone or email. So we look forward to providing you again live and personal information that you will need to be able to have any technical needs met for submitting your application in our grants management system. This again is a high-level overview of the application submission, and this is where you're going to begin. So we look forward to not only providing you with the system that's going to be able to provide you information for submission, but you will go to this landing page. So you want to bookmark this throughout your application submission and your grant award process. There are 6 important steps that you're going to complete to be able to submit your application for grant consideration. You first need to complete a login for your account to be able to submit your organization registration. So we want you to begin with whoever's going to be managing your application. So that would be either the CEO of your company, the CFO of your company, or an administrative assistant who is going to be submitting your application and be responsive to all of the emails that will come through this specific email submission. So again, your login information is going to be really important because that person is going to serve as the moderator for your organization. So you want to be able to have that first individual who's submitting and creating an application to be able to do so and also respond to the appropriate emails. Your organization's registration will be linked to that individual, and that individual will serve as the main point of contact throughout the grant submission and award process. Again, for your third step, you're going to have specific emails that are going to be sent to your point of contact who's going to be responsible for not only responding to those emails, but following the prompts that are going to assist her or him with completing the next set of steps. Those email prompts will allow login information, passwords, and information necessary for being able to manage your online account. Your application at step 5 will also be important because this is again going to be an email that's going to be sent to the point of contact that your email account has, that your grant application has been received, and you're going to be able to move forward in the application review process. So again, your main point of contact will go through 6 steps to make sure your application is successfully uploaded and submitted for consideration. Now we're going to go through some login instructions. It's going to be important that not only that you follow the prompts in your login screen, but that you also follow the prompts and emails that will be sent out. So you're going to begin first at creating an account that's going to allow you to register your organization. That's going to be the Fluxx Grants Management System for the Thriving Communities Grant Making Program, and it's going to be our home screen that you will visit after creating your account, and also will serve as your main screen for when you're actually logging in to check on the status of your application throughout the grant making program. Your registration screen is going to include very specific information about the Thriving Communities program and provide guidance around your login information. You're going to see information about the organization and how you would enter that information either by the GuideStar profile lookup or entering it manually, where you'll be able to enter your organization, your address, and your tax ID number so that your organization can be identified in the application portal. An important step that will happen in the registration process will also be something that is called a unique entity identifier. This is going to be an ID that is an alphanumerical 12-digit number that you're going to enter into our system. It is not a specific number that you're going to need at the time of registration. So if you don't yet have it, because it's a several-day process, on the SAMS.gov website, you can feel free to return to this information after you have registered. You're going to, again, enter all of your information as the prompts are specifying, which includes your geographical region and your main point of contact. Their information and email will be important because all communication from the Fluxx Grants Management System will be sent to that email and that point of contact. You will simply hit submit your request and information will be sent to your email. You will receive an online prompt that will again let you know if you have any concerns or questions. You can follow up with the Thriving Communities at GHHI.org for additional assistance. In your email, you'll receive a prompt asking you to verify your account. Your account will include information that your email is valid. It will allow the Fluxx system, again, to send you email prompts throughout the grant making process for status updates related to your application submission. It's very important that you have this verification done because you will not be able to move towards the next step. Following the verification prompt, you're going to receive a new user email, and that email is going to allow you to log into the Fluxx Grants Management System and be able to set up a password. So this is going to be the password that you're going to use throughout the duration of the grant making program. Again, you're going to have a password where you'll be able to enter that, and that specific password will be used throughout the grant making system. You can reset your password if you have any challenges or forget the password, but this is where you would go or be prompted to go at time of creating your account. This is going to be really important, and you'll use this again, user ID and password throughout the grant making process. For application completion, you will visit our homepage at the Thriving Communities Grant Making Program. You will now be in our dashboard after completing your submission process for your user ID and password. And this is going to be the dashboard that you will use throughout the grant making process. It's an all-in-one dashboard that will allow you to make submission, receive your grant award, upload your progress reports, and any information related to your closeout activities. You will use this specific portal to be able to follow up with any concerns with your program or with your application or your organizational information or any edits that you need to make along the way. To begin, we're going to look at the layout of the system. So again, you're going to have the welcome page that is going to provide you not only information about the grant making program, but the email and phone number to reach a program officer should you have any issues with submitting or having any issues of uploading documentation around your application. You will also notice that on this page, there is a Create an Application button. That is going to be the button that you're going to use to submit your application and create an actual application so that you can enter your information and upload the important documentation. This page is where you'll go back if you have started an application but have saved it and need to go back to return to it. This will be the page that you will land on as you open up the Fluxx Grants Management System. In addition to the Fluxx application, you'll have some frequently asked questions that you may want to address before submitting your application. This, again, are common questions that applicants might have with submitting an application, and we want to make sure that any questions you might have that are outside of those frequently asked questions or common questions around your application, you would simply reach out to a program officer at the Thriving Communities grant making team, and they will assist you by email or by phone. Next in your portal, you'll see that you have a a request for application. This is a PDF version of the application that you're going to be submitting online. This will allow you to download the application prior to submission so that you can see all the pertinent details that are necessary for your application. You can use the PDF to share with other colleagues on your team that may be contributing to the application. It's important to use this specific application for resourcing your team with any information that they might need to respond successfully to the application. Once you have completed the download of the application, you have the opportunity to click on organizational information to make sure that all of the pertinent information about your organization has been captured and is accurate. This is an example of a test application, but again, all of your information and the person who is serving as the point of contact will be in the specific screen. You can see that information or update that information at any time during the grant making process. Again, the person who will serve as the primary point of contact will also be listed on your dashboard. That individual's contact information and email will be provided so that any documentation that is sent from the Fluxx system will go directly to that person. You again will see at the top of the page the opportunity to edit that particular point of contact and make modifications if there's any staffing changes or someone else that needs to be added to the portal. This particular individual is going to have the ability to add additional staff members or anyone that's collaborating on behalf of the organization to submit documentation. This point of contact will be the person who manages for your organization all the pertinent information and communication that will be provided to your organization. So again, you have your organizational information, you have your point of contact, frequently asked questions, and a PDF of the actual hard copy of the actual application so that you can make a response using that documentation offline before submitting in the application portal. This will allow you now to go into the application, which again, you're going to return to the welcome page or the welcome tab on your dashboard and click the create application. Click the click application tab, and that's going to allow you to go into the create an application phase. This specific application is going to be linked to your organization in a draft form, which can be modified throughout the pre-application submission process. You want to use this specific draft stage again, and it's saving your documentation so that anyone that's collaborating with you or has to add information to that application can do so. Once submitting your application, you're not able to alter it. So you want to make sure that your application, again, is in draft form so that any edits or modifications and any team members who will be contributing to your application can make the necessary uploads throughout the process. You will also notice that you have a table of content that is going to give you the information of your organization, any grant information or financials and application materials that you may have loaded along your application submission process. You'll be able to edit those as long as it's in draft form and be able to make any modifications as necessary. Once you're in the draft stage of your application, you will have the opportunity to then upload your application and organizational information. This information should self-populate when you have gotten to this stage. You will enter the application primary contact and any team members who will be contributing to the actual application. Your point of contact or the person receiving the communication on behalf of your organization may be a different person than the primary signature. So whoever is authorized to sign your grant agreement is the person who should be listed in your primary signature. That particular person, again, at this stage can be added to your application so that when you're awarded an application or a grant award, that person would fill out your grant grant application agreement. So again, this is going to be a very important portion of your application process because your contact person and your primary signature may differ. If not, please go ahead and enter the person's name. If it's the same person's name, you may enter that in both sections. Here again, we'll enter your unique entity ID. That number is going to be a 12-digit alphanumeric number that's going to be entered into this section. If you do not have that information at the time of creating your account, you may do so as you're moving along the status of your going through your draft process. I would suggest that you have your application submission time in a way that you give yourself a sufficient number of days to have your ID number issued to you. It takes about 3 to 4 business days for that ID number to be issued from the SAMS.gov website. So please plan your time accordingly. You would then go into your organizational type. So that could be if you're a tribal organization, a nonprofit, a government entity. You would enter this information here in a drop-down box, as well as your geographical location. You're going to also need to answer the question as whether or not your organization has a fiscal sponsor. If not, you would continue to just check no and move forward with your application. However, if your organization does have a fiscal sponsor and you're going to be utilizing that organization to receive your grant, you would need to enter their information through the prompts that are provided if you clicked yes. Going forward with the rest of the grant, the rest of the information will be self-explanatory. It's going to list the grant tiers, the grant title of your project, and your project summary. It's going to be important to fill out all of these information in order to be able to hit the submission button at the end of your uploading process. Each of the questions that are listed here are going to be included to make sure that you have enough information to answer the questions along your prompts. So you're going to see in this box, there's going to be a disadvantage link that is provided for you. This information is going to make sure that the specific region that you are serving is in the disadvantaged communities. You do not have to have a project that is only serving in those communities, or if you have a project that may be outside of the region that's on the EPA's website, you may still be able to submit your application, and you would include why you have used or determined that this specific region was disadvantaged, and you would make a case for that in your application. However, when you go to the website, it's going to be important that you create a second tab so that you do not lose your information. So on this next slide, you're going to see not only materials that you have to upload, but anytime you click on any of the specific links that are embedded in the application, it's going to be important that you add a second tab and open up those documents outside of the Fluxx system. Otherwise, you'll be rerouted from the Fluxx system and your work may be lost. So you want to make sure you're saving your work along the way, but you're also using a second tab to click on any links that are in the Fluxx Grants Management System, because the Fluxx system will reroute you to those specific pages and it will redirect you away from the Fluxx system. So it's important for you to make sure you have a secondary tab open at all times. This is an example of a message you will get if you're going to click on a link within the Fluxx system that is not going to allow you to keep both the Fluxx system open and the portal that you're going to be transitioning into. So my recommendation, again, is to create a second link that you're going to be able to upload and simply right-click on the item and then allow that link to be copied and placed in a second portal that you can use outside of the Fluxx system so that you do not get rerouted from Fluxx or lose any of your information. It's going to be important that you save along the way, but we want to make sure that we are going to provide you as much information as possible and before you actually click on something, but that there is the opportunity, if you haven't saved, to lose your information if you click on a link and are rerouted outside of the system. So you want to do that as a safeguard throughout your process. Then you will notice that you will open up a second tab, as I've mentioned, and be taken to the EPA website. That's going to be where you'd go to look at the disadvantage map, and you'd enter an address, you'd enter a region, you'd enter information in this tab where it says EPA Disadvantaged Communities, Environmental Climate Change, Climate Justice Program Map. That's going to be where you're entering your information in terms of address, region, or location where you're going to be serving or intend for your project to serve and support residents of those specific communities. And you're going to verify whether or not the particular location that you're going to be serving is within the disadvantaged region of the EPA. Once you have determined that that specific community is disadvantaged, you would simply click the yes button, and then you would proceed with entering your information. I've included a few examples of the specific community that I'll be serving, or the particular demographic, and I've included the region, whether it's suburban, whether it's rural, whether it's urban. You're going to enter that information and then add your dates and financials. Because the grant making program does allow for multiple tiered applications, we do have a tier 1, which is 1 year. We have a tier 2, which is a 1 year or a 2 year grant. And then we have a tier 3, that's a 2 year application. And you're going to enter that information depending on the duration that you're selecting, with the start date of your program and the total amount of the grant award that you're selecting. And you're going to hit save. When you get to the portion where you're going to go into your application materials, you have the option of utilizing a template provided by the grant making team for your budget and your work plan. You're going to see that information pop up in a download that you're going to click on to be able to open and type into the template. Again, you're going to create that in a second tab just so you're not rerouted to away from the Fluxx grant system. And you're going to do that for each of the options for budget template or work plan template. In each of the instances, you can save that information to your hard drive and be able to use it for your application submission. It is not important, or it's not required that you use our specific templates, but they're suggested if you have information that you want to add to or change or modify. It will not take away from the score and or the specific page count, because again, it's a template as a suggestion and it's optional, but you may use your specific work plan and or budget from within your company. Next, you're going to see at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see all the required documentation that is required for submitting application for the grants management program. Your budget, your financial statements, your proposal narrative, and your work plan are all required documents. But in addition to those required documents, you do have optional materials that you can submit that will help us better understand your organization. For each of those tabs, you're going to click on the plus sign and you're going to upload the specific documentation for each of the requested items. It's going to be important that you're clicking through the specific list that is provided, because if you miss a specific required document, when you try to hit submit, it will not allow you to move forward. So again, you're going to use the plus signs for each of the sections, and you're going to click on those plus signs and hit the button for uploading or adding a file. You would be able to click the add file button, and then once you've clicked that and identified that specific form within your hard drive, or however you wanted to upload it, if it's from a flash drive or hard drive, you want to make sure that you hit the start upload button. It will not move forward, or you will not be able to submit the documentation without clicking the add a file and then the start upload button. Once you have completed the upload, it will give you a prompt letting you know that the upload has been completed and that the document has been added to your application. You're going to continue that process throughout your submission process until you get to your optional files. As you get to your optional files, you'll notice that where I had budget, where there was the work plan, where there was a 7-page narrative, those buttons are now gone and the optional files are now gone because I've uploaded under each of those sections. You're going to then add a YouTube link for, again, it's an optional opportunity for you to be able to share more about your organization by providing a visual presentation of your project. You will use the YouTube link to be able to provide that information to our to this part of the portal, and then that will allow us to visit the YouTube page and to be able to view your application submission and your YouTube video for consideration. Now for the actual submission process. You're going to see at the bottom of your page each of the documents that you have uploaded. It is possible that during the application submission process that you may have entered something that you want to change or you want to modify. You are able to resubmit that. Again, as long as it's in draft, you are able to submit or resubmit application documents and make necessary modifications. Once you have all of your documents listed, those documents will remain on your site until you hit the submission button. So again, throughout your process, you're going to hit save, and it's going to be a blue button at the bottom. You're going to hit save so that your documentation is not lost. But if you need to make any modification, you would just simply use the minus sign to delete that submission, and then the plus sign to re-upload the correct documents or the modified documents that you'd like to submit. Once you have successfully uploaded everything and hit the save button, you will get a message that your changes have been successfully submitted. Again, it's going to be important that you see that saved message because that's going to allow you to know that all of the information you've uploaded has been successfully saved. That is now your prompt to now move forward with the submission process. You're going to use the save and close button to be able to submit your documents. So in other words, you've saved your documents along the way, but you need to use the save and close button to be prompted to the actual submit button. On the next page, you'll be brought to the Thriving Communities homepage again. At the top of your application, you're going to see the name of your organization, you're going to see the amount of your request, and you're going to again see the draft button. You're going to see where your application is starting and where you're actually going to have a kind of a pipeline of all of the stages of your application. So it's going to move through review, and then when the funds are granted. Those are the 4 primary steps that it's going to go through. In order to submit your application, you're going to go to the bottom of the screen and hit submit. Once you've hit the submit button, you're going to receive a prompt confirming that you want to submit your application, and you're going to just simply click the OK button. Upon receiving your email that your application is now submitted and everything has now been successfully uploaded, that prompted email is going to let you know that not only has your application been received, it's going to give you some sense of the timeline. It's going to give you that your application is going to be evaluated over a month and a half, and that successful applications should be able to go under grant agreement within a 3-month duration. We're again going to provide you our contact information for any information that you might need along the way or have any questions about your grant application. We'll be free to help you and assist you in any way by phone or by email. At that point, you should be able to go back into the grant system and see that your application status has changed from draft to application submitted. This again is going to give you an online status update as your application is moving through the portal. It's going to, or moving through the stages along your grant award process. It's going to provide you prompts in the online status button at the top of the page. So again, when you log back into your dashboard, you're going to see that your application has moved from draft to submitted. At that point, you're going to go back through your process again of noticing at each stage of your process of review that status button is going to update. It's not going to send you an email. It's simply going to change status inside of the portal. So your dashboard is going to be a really user-friendly way of kind of checking on the status throughout the review process. As you will notice, when you go from submitted, you then go to a threshold review. The threshold review is going to be where we're going to verify whether or not all your application information was submitted properly, and then provide the opportunity for it to go under a full review. So again, your status update bar at the top is going to give you updates along the way. We will not send them by email. There'll simply be an online status change, and you can check your dashboard at any time. It's accessible to you 24 hours a day, and you can go at any time to be able to look at the status on a day-to-day basis as your application is under review. On this page, you will see again that the application has moved from threshold review to full review. That is that the application has moved through an initial qualification. It's met all of the proper standards it needed for submission. And then it was reviewed by a set of reviewers, a team of reviewers. And then once their review is over, that means that your individual application was scored and has now been and feedback has been provided by a review team. It will then go into a final deliberation where final decisions about approval or denial are made. And you again will see that status change inside of your application portal. And this is again at the top of the page. This is where you'll go to be able to see the actual status change of your application. Once awarded, you will be sent the email by the Fluxx system that will say whether or not your application was approved or denied, and then next steps that you can follow upon the directions inside of the email. If you are awarded, an application is moved from the applicant stage to the grant stage. And you will notice in your dashboard that your application will then go into the grant section, into an active grant. So again, you're moving from the applicant into the grant, a grantee, and the information will be listed in the actual dashboard. So just as a recap, your final decisions will be an online status throughout the application review process. Again, you'll have a threshold review. You'll have a team of reviewers, three reviewers, external reviewers who will review your application and score it. And then you will have a final team that will review your application and make a final decision based on scores and feedback of whether or not your application is approved or denied. That specific email will come out to the point of contact, which will include, again, final decision and your next step. So it may be that if your application is denied, it will give you specific steps that you can follow to resubmit your application. Applicants that have been denied are allowed to submit their applications for a second round of consideration. So you're allowed to submit twice for your specific project if denied. However, those who are awarded application, moving from the applicant to a grantee, you'll find that information sent again to your main point of contact, who will then be provided instructions of what the next steps are to go into a grant agreement for your specific project. For your information, on September 10th, we will host an application webinar that will begin at 11 o'clock online. You'll have an opportunity to meet the Thriving Communities team, as well as go over a high-level overview of the grant application program, as well as the application submission and award-making process. You will be able to register for any of the webinars or any activities or upcoming events at the greenandhealthyhomes.org Thriving Communities webpage. Again, we invite you to join us on September 10th at 11 o'clock for the application webinar, where we'll go over high-level information that you might need for consideration for this grant-making program. If you need any additional support, we look forward to helping you, and you can reach us by email at thrivingcommunities@ghhi.org or by phone at 443-687-7343. We look forward to supporting you in your grant making opportunities, and we look forward to supporting anything that you might need in terms of support for the grants management system. Thank you for all of your interest and your support. We appreciate your time. Have a great day.